And I think it was a great little event. I'd be interesting to see how it pans out. I know that over the years when we did them earlier that interest waned a little bit. A lot of that was to do with the lack of points or prize money, so we'll just see how it continues to grow. But anything to try and promote the sport and to get people up to the forest to watch the main event on the weekend is a great idea. So you can watch the round 2 and 3 of those. There's no overall for those, but there is a second race and a third race in Offenburg and Novomesto.
And a few people were asking on the night whether or not it would be worth putting in faster lines that required more technique. Again, this starts taking a very simple format and starting to potentially complicate it, but it might just attract a few more of the guys who you know, may not have the same sprint ability but the technical ability to show off.
There's a few factors to take into account there. I mean, when it started to rain just before the event on Friday night, there were a few riders I saw on their Twitters saying they weren't going to ride because, you know, their payday is this race here, and they didn't want to take any chances by doing a collarbone or doing anything stupid. So you don't want to make it unattractive. You want to make sure that all the big stars are happy to go ride, and they're not being soft there. It's just that this isn't what they get paid to do. And I mean, in a way they're meant to promote the sport, but to go out and take risks. We saw that happen a bit in four-cross and downhill, where the downhillers started to pull out of four-cross due to the risk factor and the consequences to their main event. So you don't want to do too much of that. And then there's the other comment of, you know, what riders are we trying to attract to this? And we saw Brian Lopes and Tracy Mosley and Annika Beerton and a lot of gravity riders taking part. Are we going to start to see track sprinters and all sorts of other people turning up and doing it? I mean, essentially it's an event for showcasing the World Cup cross-country riders, and the closer it is to World Cup cross-country sort of format, I think the better. But you can be creative with that stuff. We see it already here with line A, line B, and anything you can do. But like you say, you don't want to make it overly complicated and bring a lot of burden to the organisers, who already have enough to do on this weekend without creating a mini World Cup in the centre of town, shutting down shops, bus routes, taxi routes, police. I mean, it's a big effort to shut down a city centre for what was about 3 or 4 hours. If you're in the traffic trying to get to Pickering on that night, I don't know if you love cycling, you know, like that's the problem. There was a lot of people who were bitching and complaining about the disruption. So, you know, at the end of the day, there are trade-offs, but I think overall it was a great event, and I'm sure there are some people who watched on Friday night who are up here this weekend. All right, so we're coming up towards the end of lap number 2, and the fascinating battle at the front of the field is between Reng Cheng Wan from the Specialized Factory team and the under-23 rider Julie Bressette from France, riding for BH Sun Tour. Both of them under-23 riders of note, because Reng Cheng Wan won the World Championship in Rotorua 2006 in the under-23 category, and that's when we knew the Chinese were serious about the Beijing Olympics, because they had some great riders and they were working very, very hard with their young riders to develop them. And it wasn't just, as we see now, for the Beijing Olympics. It is a full national Olympic program, and here they are at the front of the field with just over a year to go to the London 2012 Games. This is a little bit coming out of the climb from the entrance into Warri Gill. So these are the riders coming out of the climb. That looks like it's probably Alexander Engen in the Swedish national colours. But we're back now with the leaders, Reng Cheng Wan and Julie Bressette, swapping back and forth, making for a fascinating race as we end lap number 2, and we're about to start lap number 3 of 5. You can see the wind buffeting the bunting around the track, and it's definitely very, very windy out there for them in the open, more exposed sections that we're not seeing on camera, but I can assure you it's quite gusty, getting up to 45 miles an hour, the wind gusts today. And there is a chance of showers today, but they'll be very fast moving. So if they come in, they'll be blown out pretty quickly. I don't think we'll see anything this afternoon for the men's race that will be long and prolonged. So
do you think a rain shower could affect the racing at all?
Not terribly. It affects tyre choice a little bit, but all of them know that the gully, or what we call Warri Gill, is wet anyway, so that's not going to change. What will be, it's just in their minds, just psychologically, and being able to see clearly, having to change eyewear, just little things that you need to adapt to. The coldness, when it's windy and wet, it can really hit you through to the core, so you might have to change your base layer plan for what you're wearing. So a couple of little things like that, but I don't think us as spectators are going to see a huge difference in the race result. All right, 1 and 2 coming across the line to end lap number 2. They've completed that now in 42 minutes, and we can see that the gap will start to grow on third place. I would think that it will be some time before we see our third place riders. The gap last time was a lot closer. They were only a second or two behind, and now we can see the gap really starting to build between these two, and it looks like Catherine Pendrell, who's now moved up into third. So Catherine Pendrell talking to Maya Wojciechowska, because she wants her to take a turn here. It's almost like on the road on a windy day. You want to not do all the work at the front when the wind's blustering. You can see the flags in the background. They've got a headwind right now. So this is a headwind on the main straight, and she just asked Maya Wojciechowska to take a turn through there so that she can have a bit of a break as Spitz sits in on third wheel in that group. And we wait now for sixth place. This should be Eva Lechner in the Italian triple stripe of red, white and green. And then behind her we should see the other Lunar team rider, that's Katarina Nash. Georgia Gould I haven't seen much of in this race. She's sitting down around 25th. So Georgia Gould did come through in the top 25, yeah, 24. She'd moved up some spots, but is definitely not having a stronger day as her teammates. As we see now, Byberg going through in 8th place, maintaining that spot. Schneider through in 9th, dropping 2 spots, and Langvad now moving up to the top 10, having passed Emily Batty and Gunrita Dala Flesja. And Annie Last as well has been passed. So Catherine Pendrell now deciding to sit in behind the world champion as the Olympic champion sits behind. So she's sandwiched between two world champion and Olympic champions there. And Catherine Pendrell really looking forward to the top step, she told me at the start of the race today. But she's going to have to find 33 seconds to get up to those leaders. Katarina Nash on a charge now. Looks like she's looking very, very strong coming through in front of Byberg. So Katarina Nash in front of Byberg. Now coming through there is Schneider out of the seat and pedaling. So some tense faces there. That was the soigneur for the Maxis Rocky Mountain team wondering where Marie-Hélène Premont is. Well, she has crossed the line now in 15th, so she's moved up 4 spots. And here's a nice group of riders coming through. This is Annie Last now moving ahead of Emily Batty, realizing she needs to make a move if she wants to try and get up to the next group. So Annie Last passing Emily Batty, and in there as well should be Hurikova from the Czech Republic, as well as Gunrita Dala Flesja. Emily Batty there on the 2.9er Superfly. As I mentioned, finished 15th here last year. She does like this track very much. Winner of the Sea Otter Classic earlier this year, and now sitting in 12th place. And she's decided to run today the Bontrager XR3's 2.0. Some riders running quite a thick tyre. 2.25s I think Katarina Nash is running. But most of the riders running about 1.95, 2.0 on this track. So Emily Batty getting her second best World Cup result here in 2010. She's had a 10th in Offenburg, but she finished 15th here last year, and sitting now in 12th place. So definitely someone who likes this course. And as I mentioned before, the average speed on this track last year for the women was just over 18 kilometers an hour, which was about 4 kilometers an hour than many of the other tracks. So it is very fast. The weather conditions today very similar, maybe a little bit windier, but the track running a little bit faster. So pretty much the same overall net result here for track conditions compared to last year. Okay, this is plate number 40 coming through now. Yes, it was not another Chinese rider. It was the national colours of Villa Gente from Spain. And that is plate number 40, Ana Villa Gente from Spain. Spain struggling to find some elite talent in women's cross country. They do have a development program for under 23 and juniors, but they are really struggling at the elite level after the loss of Margaret Puyana. Villa Gente having to do most of the work to try and get the points for Spain for Olympic qualification. The 29-year-old. But back now to the second group. This looks like Catherine Pendrell sitting in third, and Maya Wojciechowska now sitting on the back of that with Sabine Spitz in the middle. So Wojciechowska going to 5th place. So that's 3rd, 4th and 5th, and Eva Lechner now, it looks like, yeah, Wojciechowska taking the outside line. That is quite a bit longer, and the A line isn't really that tough. I would probably only use the B line on the first lap if there was a lot of traffic, but the A line for all of these top girls should be quite achievable. Perhaps Wojciechowska thinking, I'll stay out of the way in case one of those two in front of me has a problem, and get a nice clear run down line B. But you can see there's some stone steps there, but they really aren't as technically difficult as I think you'll find the majority of the men using that after about the second or third lap. There's Katarina Nash sitting in behind Leni Byberg. And as I mentioned before, the Luna team celebrating 10 years this year. And as any trade team will tell you, to have a future of 10 years is always a great thing. You can build and make a real name for the team, and Luna is really a byword for quality in women's cross-country racing. So I was going to say there, the wind very strong, knocking the camera, but I think there was just a movement there. It is a difficult footing up there on the hill. But we can see now Gunrita Dahler falling back a little bit from the pace that was being set by Annie Last and Emily Batty in front of her. And she's going to fall very soonly back into the clutches of Marie-Hélène Premont, who's moving up now through the field in 15th place. That's her there right now in plate number 9. Behind her should be Rosara Joseph from New Zealand, back now to 16th. Georgia Gould has moved up a few more spots. She's now into the top 20 with Katie Compton. So those two seem to be riding pretty close together, only 6 seconds apart, Gould and Compton, the North Americans. Hannah Klein from Germany sitting in at 21st, and Anna Shafranitz from Poland, the teammate of Wachowska, sitting in 22nd place. And Elizabeth Osel back in 23rd. Well, she will not be happy with that. She's going to lose her top 10 ranking and her frontline starts. And Elizabeth Osel, the former World Cup winner from 2008, well, that's really a tough day for her. And this looks like her now, actually. Speak of the devil, that looks like the Red Bull helmet of Elizabeth Osel. Yes, plate number 10. See if there's anything going on there. I don't see anything on her clothing to suggest she's had a fall. She's just struggling, but she really is a supreme climber, and to be honest, there isn't enough steep climbing on this track to suit Lizzie Osel. She's a small frame rider, and this is a power course, so I would think that she is going to struggle a little bit here. She'll be looking forward to courses with a little bit more climbing, like in Val di Sole and Champre a little bit later in the year. But all of this is important for world rankings and your start position for the World Championships. To get a front row, you really have to be top 8 in the world ranking. And Elizabeth Osel, well, if we look now, the number 1 ranked rider in the world is not Reng Cheng Wan. Reng Cheng Wan is ranked number 42 in the world. So she doesn't have the volume of results as some of the other riders do. Catherine Pendrell is ranked number 1 in the world, and that's just recently taking over from, I think it was Irene Galentieva. No, in fact, it was that Lizzie Osel was ranked number 1 in the world and has now dropped down to number 2 after South Africa. Catherine Pendrell passing her. So the world ranking doesn't just take into World Cup results, of course. It takes into account national championships, world championships, and the plethora of category HC and category C1 races and so on that are around the world, and also the Pro Eliminator. So it takes in a lot of the races, and in that way, with some national races in North America, Catherine Pendrell has moved to number 1, and Elizabeth Osel has dropped down to number 2. And surprisingly, the World Cup leader is ranked 42 in the world, because possibly in her country, in China and other parts of the world where she trains and races, there aren't too many point ranking events. But that will change after today. If she goes on to win, she will pick up a lot of points, and that will help her ranking move up a little bit higher, and she'll be wanting to move that up higher and higher for her country for Olympic qualification, and also for her World Championship start position in Champre in September later this year. Reng Cheng Wan now leads Julie Bressett as she did before on that descent, and cautiously goes down the little steep drop that leads into the tech area. Both riders having no mechanical issues, but they might pick up some water or a gel or some sort of sustenance as they head up towards the steep climb or the long climb. Relatively fast climb and not much technical content. It is a fire road up the back, which takes the riders just a bit above Medusa here and sweeps them back across towards the start of Warriegill. A couple of open road sections where the riders can take a bit of a reprieve, get up off the handlebars, stretch their back a little, and get ready for the next technical section. So Catherine Pendrell now has made a bit of a break on 4th and 5th. So Pendrell now moving away since down through the Warrie Gully. Worry Gill, and she's got away from 4th and 5th, and that's allowed Eva Lechner to move